Okay, so some really interesting sessions this morning, and I love that I get to follow on from some really detailed sessions about optimization and digital through to one of my favorites, Mikey's session on creative. So one of the things that we're going to talk about is content and how that relates to the challenges that you're facing and some of the issues that are happening for brands at the moment. So I'm just going to do a very brief introduction, and then I'm going to pass over to Paula from Intowork Australia, who's actually going to take you through the transformation that they're currently working through. So this challenge, I love this quote, it really tells you the problem that we've got at the moment. So Pepsi talking about the fact that they used to have 4 pieces of creative to focus on a year, with a budget of about $1 million and a lot of time and leisure to do so. Now that's changed to 4,000 pieces of content a year that they're producing across their channels. So it's a massive issue that we're having. My graph looks pretty similar to Mikey's, except we're talking about the complexity and the volume of content that is now being required to support those kind of channels out in the market. So it's not just about the escalation that's happened with digitalization and the channels that are available, but the content that's required to what we term feed the beast. And this is what it looks like. So most of our focus as brands has been focusing on this right-hand side here, and that's talking about personalization, how we can get engagement, how we can get in front of customers, and that's using really interesting technology platforms like marketing automation. We're all pretty savvy with that now, using ad platforms, using audience sentiment platforms for social. The problem that we're actually seeing out in the market is while we're spending 90% of our budgets and time focusing on this downstream technology, we haven't invested any time and effort into the upstream. So this is planning, producing, managing all the tasks and admin work and approvals that are involved with producing all of the content that you need to feed this beast. So that's what we talk about when we're talking about content operations, and that's the guts of what we're going to be talking about today. And what we're really talking about is getting visibility and control again over the marketing content that you're producing across all channels. So I'm not talking about content marketing here. I'm talking about all content, all channels. The main focus is about centralization of processes and streamlining that flow as much as possible. So it's about reducing your administration time and trying to get higher quality content out faster. And I'm going to pass over to Paula, who's going to take you through the detail of what Intowork have been working on.
Thanks, Paula. Excuse me, I am going to have to use notes. I'm not a digital marketer, and having seen some of you guys present who are so skilled at this, congratulations, but I do need my notes for this. I actually head up a marketing team, and they're all great digital marketers in a range of different disciplines. But my role is to oversee the work of the organisation and what they do in relation to marketing services. So having a system like Cognitives to be able to help us manage that content has been critical. And bear with me while I go to the next slide. Okay. Intowork Australia is a parent brand company. So we operate on a house of brands model, except our parent brand's not very well known, but I'll go through that in a little bit. We're about 30 years old, and we've transformed from a very small inner northern suburbs of Melbourne training group to a national provider of workforce solutions. And the growth of our company has and can be measured in several ways. In 2012, we're about 40 staff, about $20 million. We're now $160 million with 800 staff. So we've had some really quick and rapid growth in that area. We were focused very much around training and employment in the northern suburbs of Melbourne, and we now provide a multitude of employment services, whether that's disability support, apprenticeships, recruitment, labour hire, community programs. So we've got a really diverse set of programs and offerings. We've gone from being just based in the northern suburbs of Melbourne to right across the country, and particularly strong in regional areas like far north Queensland, in Tasmania, and we're the largest provider of apprentices across the country. We've gone from one business to a parent brand encompassing 10 different brands, and the rapid growth has primarily come through acquisition and merger. And of course, with acquisition and merger is a range of different challenges. So there has been different systems and platforms at the various businesses and brands that we work with, and bringing those into a consistent way into our platforms is one of the biggest challenges that we've got. And it's not just around content, it's around a whole range of different things, whether that's ordering of business cards or banking processes. Bringing everything together is a really big challenge for the organisation. So this is what we look like. We have our parent company, Intowork Australia, and then our multiple brands which operate across the country, and a charitable foundation as well. We work across 4 main delivery streams: apprenticeships, training, employment and recruitment, and community services. We have 72 locations across the country and a multitude of clients, whether that's individuals, employers, government, local government, various stakeholders. So we've got lots of communication challenges with those various groups. We focus on providing workforce solutions, so whether that's placement of apprentices, labour hire, recruitment, employment services, and really gone big into the disability services space, and that's the example I'm going to talk about in a moment. And the diversity and model of our business with the parent company and the multitude of brands means that we have multiple messages at the same time, quite often to the same audiences. 4 of our businesses operate in the apprenticeship space, so we'll continue to have consistent messaging that we need to do to those audiences, but from different brands. And the rapid growth of the business has resulted in what we call our spider web. Yeah, so I'm sure you've all got, images like this that you can relate to. So what we've tried to do is look at Interwork in the centre. We then, of course, have our various different business brands, which are the blue. We have our channels that we try and communicate, and then we have our various platforms that we use as well. And some of them will be one business only, but some may be multiple, and they cross over, intersect, etc. And trying to get some sort of semblance of clarity around this is one of our daily challenges. And what we've got in here is that each of our brands have their own ad hoc processes. So we have different people in different parts of the country who might post on social, who might do press ads, who might do media releases. Some of that might come through and be run through us as a shared services, but some might be run through the business. We will have lots of different types of information that people actually produce, whether that's photo, video, speeches, all sorts of different things, and trying to contain that in one area has been a real challenge for us. But it's the ad hoc nature of it without the scheduling and monitoring of that information and the approvals process, which has proven really challenging. And with the manual processes, one of the things that we actually noticed is that job posting, we post a lot of jobs for recruitment across the country, that can take up to 15 minutes to actually do by the time it's emailed through, got it onto a job board, someone sourced a photograph, put into an actual platform, pushed out through social, various rules around different social aspects. It's a 15-minute job. We do lots and lots of these every week. So trying to get some sort of uniform process in that has been a real challenge for us, and getting it to be more automated was one of the keys. We're a not-for-profit. So we're a company that has one for-profit arm, but most of our businesses are not-for-profit. So we don't have huge budgets to do on this stuff. We don't have lots of resources either. So it's really challenging for us to try and bring the businesses into a more commercially operating environment where we're far more nimble, speed to market is better, that we actually then can deliver on what the businesses want with limited resourcing. And the other challenge we find is that our businesses traditionally think of us as a standard marketing and comms service unit. So seeing us as digital experts, well, not me, but some of the other people in the team, seeing us as experts and being able to deliver on their requirements through these channels is another really tricky area for us to operate in. One of the things we've challenged, of course, is that we have little brand consistency, having the parent brand and multitude of brands. Trying to have similar messaging and consistency is a difficulty for us, but we also have varied business level and individual resourcing. So some businesses will have a resource to be able to post on social, some businesses won't. So there is a lack of consistency in the way we actually deliver our messaging across the various businesses. And what we needed was to have all of our content management system in one place, because ultimately we want to leverage those resources across the organisation. If we're posting about apprenticeships in Victoria, that information is consistent and relevant to apprenticeships in Queensland. There might be some slight change in government regulation or timing, but essentially the message is exactly the same. So if we're doing it for work and training in Tasmania, then we can also do it for MAS National in South Australia. And having that information in a standard and consistent format is critical to be able to leverage across the group of businesses. So what we've done is actually started with one brand first. And Interact Australia is our newest business to the group. And on July 2 this year, we actually were awarded a government contract to deliver disability employment services across 12 locations across the country. And we're part of a partnership consortium with COACT, which is the National Disability Services provider. So we're in this partnership with about 7 other different businesses. So not our businesses, but other businesses in the COACT partnership. And what we're doing is actually really generating digital advertising leads for conversion for people to actually use our employment services to get placed into jobs. And what we've found is that the really engaging content is what's driving great quality leads for us. We're actually getting people reading our stories, contacting us, getting in touch, going through the process of actually getting placed into employment. And it's been through this particular platform, the scheduling, the sharing, the actual consistency of content that we've been able to do that. And the critical part for us in part of the partnership model is that we can actually have our Interact Australia stories, but we can also then leverage off stories from other businesses that are part of the partnership. So they're not our businesses, but we can actually use that content across the partnership more globally and actually have a stronger presence in the marketplace. And what we needed, of course, is oversight so that we can have some cohesion. So being able to see all the different messaging that comes through, and whether that's bullet points, whether it's a photo, whether it's a video, whether it's a full-blown written article, we actually then can actually see all of that information, we can curate it, we can actually get it into a format and schedule it, most importantly, so it goes out and has cohesion across those various marketing platforms. And of course, we want to know what it is and when it's been published. I mean, I'm sure you've all had the experience where a photo's been used so many times for a particular ad. We're all sick of it. We want to make sure that we're not reusing the same imagery all the time. Simple things like that in terms of managing multiple brands, they become really critical. When your CEO looks at it and goes, you know, Paula, why are we still using this image? Now I can start to track that sort of information. I can actually keep a record of what we've used in the past and be able to utilise that then in other publications, whether that's annual reports, whether it's newsletters, media articles, etc. Having it all there and in one area for us and knowing when and how we've used it has become really important. And of course, the streamline part of it is the other really winning element for us. So I can have people in Queensland writing content, it comes through to the system, I've got a resource who's actually curating it, but you know, the staff out in the field don't need to be writers, they don't need to be content experts, but they're the ones with the really good messages, the good stories that we want to get out there. So having that way to actually process and streamline all of that information through to a central repository has been really critical. And it means that people who are working, you know, in an employment services field can actually see their information, their stories out there without having to worry about how it actually happens, but they actually know that that's their information. One of the things that, you know, we've learnt from this is about manual processes. If I told you that it took me 18 steps to order a business card, yeah, that's one of the manual processes that I'm still living with. So if we can make this much more simpler, then we'll actually do that. We've got our business cards nearly down to 3 steps, which is, you know, an improvement. But what we find is we spend far too much time as a conglomerate organisation with multiple brands on processes that we've inherited. So we're trying to move away from some of those and become far more streamlined. Selling the vision. Yeah, our high-level stakeholders, so I work with 10 CEOs of 10 different businesses, and getting them on board around a system like this, that's my job, is to actually sell into them why it's critical that we have cohesion in this content management area. And we do what we call an education piece to those high-level leaders. So they're a little bit like me. They're not digital marketers either, but understanding what the time wasting that we do, how the resource management can be far more improved, how we can have better leverage across the business is really critical. So that's another key takeaway for us. And of course, we do have some staff who are kicking and screaming. You know, the people who've had the control over their Facebook account. We've got, you know, particular people who treat their social or their work social accounts like their personal social accounts. And you don't post for a job like you do about your puppy or your coffee or any of those things. You've really got to make sure that your content is fit for purpose and audience. So that's an ongoing challenge for us. Inherited businesses, inherited staff, inherited processes mean that we have to actually bring people along on the journey. So that's what we do. And of course, being transparent, you know, that's getting out, talking about the system, showing people how it works, getting them engaged and involved in it, really helps us to deliver on that actual outcome, which is about leveraging that information and utilising our content in a really consistent way. And I think that's enough from me. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Paula. Just to finish off before we open up for any questions, for me, one of the key takeaways that we've seen with brands like Intowork Australia and the other brands that we work with is that it's about dealing with complexity. So the first thing you need to understand is the level of complexity that you're trying to manage. And complexities can be around people, processes, or around content. So if you're dealing with a large number of brands and a large amount of content across those brands, it's a challenge. Likewise, if you've got people dispersed across different markets, different countries, different teams, trying to corral all of that together can be a challenge. If you've got your entire marketing team, small team, in one room and you can all tap each other on the shoulder, then you don't need a platform to try and run that level of complexity. You just need some basic processes that can help to make things better. So it's about understanding where your business and brand lies on that complexity scale and the ways that you can try and solve it. One of the top things to focus on first is about streamlining, going through, finding the admin processes that you're doing again and again and again that don't need to be done, finding out if anything's being approved by email. It's incredibly painful. We know some big brands that are still doing it. You have to go back and look through a ton of emails to find that one line because something went wrong. And it's about getting visibility and control back over that marketing content. So if you're looking for a bit of help on that, we love giving away free valuable resources. So we've got an ebook here that talks about how to scale up your content operations, how to get started, how to work out that complexity, and there's a bunch of insights from industry leaders in the market on that as well. So fill your boots there. All right, looks like that's it. Thank you.